We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Matt.
So, this might be the most fantastical episode of the entirety of the OC, because in the very beginning of it, it turns out that Seth can perfectly grill swordfish. That seems impossible to me. It is the least likely thing I've ever heard in this show.
I don't know what to say. Also, like, the little side banter where, like, they're fully talking at, like, they're talking at full volume and don't expect Sandy to hear that, you know, he's
lying.
He's lying.
We this episode has, in the positive note, I would say this episode has 2 fantastic callbacks. Actually, 3 fantastic callbacks that all kind of fall into good meta jokes about the show The OC. Mm-hmm. I like this episode a lot more than the previous episode because this episode just felt loose and fun for the most part. Yeah. The lines that I'm thinking about is at one point, Ryan and Seth are on the phone, and Ryan is talking about his mom, who is trying to stay sober, and Seth is talking about what to do with Summer. And Ryan says, looks like we both have women to face. And Seth says, both whom suffer different types of blackouts. Which is just like a phenomenal joke. The other joke that made me laugh out loud is when Summer is lamenting the fact that Seth is no longer in love with her. And she says, to think just 2 years ago, he stood on that coffee cart and proclaimed his love to me. And Taylor goes, that really was a beautiful moment. And Summer looks at her and she goes, you didn't see me, but I was there. Such a great meta joke about that happening before her character was in the show.
Yeah.
And then the line that made me laugh out loud in this episode is with the swordfish. And Seth is bragging about the swordfish. And he says to Ryan, see? I got this handled. There's no need for you to become a fisherman now. And Ryan goes, yeah, that was a bad idea. Like, just fully acknowledging how stupid that subplot was for a couple episodes last season. Like, it is... that was even last season.
It was the beginning of this season.
Oh, my God. This season has been going on forever. Dear God.
Not great.
But yes. So... it's graduation time. They're prepping for graduation. The final episode of this season is called Graduation. So we're like 4 episodes away from that. But tickets arrive, and Sandy is complaining that they pay all this money for this charter school. They only get 2 measly tickets. Where's Nana gonna sit? And Ryan offers his 2 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when Kirsten's like, maybe you should go visit your mom and see if she wants to go. And I'm kind of on Team Sandy at this point, that this could go very poorly. Because historically, anything involving Ryan and his mom has gone really poorly. And I kind of love this Ryan storyline. I think that it shows a lot of growth. He immediately starts to judge his mom making bad decisions because of the guy that she's dating, and decides that he doesn't want her to be there. He's positive that she's going to relapse.
Sure.
And like allowing him to see how wrong he is in this circumstance is beautiful. And like to jump to the very end of the episode, I legitimately had a couple tears in my eyes when he sees the inside of his mom's locker and it's just photos of him over the years. Like it's a very sweet moment, and it kind of jumps back to the Kirsten subplot of telling Seth at AA that he's the reason she got sober, and like reflects back in as like Ryan is the reason Dawn is trying to get sober. Yeah. Like it's actually I think it is a beautifully and maturely handled storyline.
Yeah.
The rest of this episode, however, where we're just like knee deep in this Newport group nonsense, and we're like tied up with Seth and Summer breaking up and unbreaking up with each other, and like these mind games that Seth is playing with Summer to avoid just telling the truth that he didn't get into Brown, is like absolute psychotic behavior. And then also the Marissa just goes, Volchek shows up, and then all of the goodwill from the previous episode just is like immediately out the window. Yeah. And she's like right back to hanging out with him. And then we kind of end on this like open-ended Marissa stopping a sexual assault from happening story arc. Like there's a lot happening. There's a lot of bad happening surrounding the good that is the Ryan and Dawn storyline in this episode. Now I'm curious though, is your takeaway about the same, that like without that storyline this episode's kind of a big pile of dog shit, or is there some subplots that you actually like in this episode?
I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of the Newport stuff, of the Newport group things. I understand where we're going. And the thing is, again, I'm burdened with prior knowledge. So like the Newport group stuff has to happen because there's an episode coming up called Man of the Year that really kind of puts it all together. And I mean, does not in like a satisfying way, but it definitely like it's a good button on everything that we've been going through.
I would not have believed you if you told me that Sandy running the Newport group would be a subplot that lasted 21 episodes in this season. Like I truly thought that this was like a thing that 10 episodes in was going to be like done and in the past, like so many of the teenage subplots are. So they better make it pay off, because it's been a very underwhelming storyline for the entirety of this season. So I am curious to see where that ends up. And again, there's not much that I have to say about it, really. Like the short of it is that like Matt's gone. Like that's the very short, brief version of it, is that Matt gambled on a blackmail scheme. He almost was going to get murdered probably until Sandy showed up, lies for him that there's no evidence for what Matt was trying to blackmail this guy for, was just going on a hunch and gossip. Sandy gives him a lot of money as severance to go as far away from Newport as possible. And then in the final moments, it's revealed that there absolutely was evidence that Sandy now has, and he hides it in his car instead. And I'm assuming that this Man of the Year episode probably is going to factor into that evidence that Sandy has, because I don't know, Sandy Cohen does not strike me as a man that finds out that someone's into some fucked up shit and isn't going to like make sure that the full strength of the law falls down on them. For it.
My friend, you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait 2 episodes apparently, because I don't think it's.
No.
Hold on, like Man of the Year doesn't come. Man of the Year is the penultimate episode. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait 2 more.
So we're gonna do a whole recording session before I find out what happens next.
Yeah.
Curses. The Seth and Summer thing has like some moments here and there that I liked. Summer is trying to get Seth's attention just exclusively when the teacher's back is turned. And that was like a pretty fun little visual gag. Summer tries to recreate Seth asking her out, and I thought that was really cute until Seth fucking ruins all of it by just looking her in the eye and being like, I don't love you anymore. Because, I don't want to see a sad Summer. That really bums me out. Yeah. I hated something at first, but as we've been talking about this episode, I've actually changed my mind on it, is that there was this moment where Sandy's dealing with this Newport group stuff, and there's this subtle moment where it implies that Kirsten might actually relapse, but instead she opens the bottle of wine and then pours it all out.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, dear God, are we really like flashing back to the Kirsten as an alcoholic trope? But given the theming of everything that's happening with Ryan and his mom, I actually do think that works. It works as a symbol of, even if I would like to believe that it works as a subtle call out to like what Dawn is doing is going to work, and that she's also not going to relapse, that she has the same strength that Kirsten has, and that she's able to like not backslide. Because I already know what's going to happen in the graduation episode, and I know that Marissa's dying in that episode, so I also don't need it to also be that like Ryan's mom shows up as a lush and like ruins everything. Like I don't need all of that piling into a single episode.
I mean, the parallel of like that, something that kind of connects, and I didn't realize it until you were like illustrating it, but like that connects Seth and Ryan is the fact that both their mothers are alcoholics, right?
Yeah. Well, and Kirsten's the one that says Dawn is going to her AA meetings, which means that like now that Kirsten has struggled with alcoholism, it has given her a reason to reach out to Dawn, and that we find out that there's this whole like kind of secret relationship that the two of them have had over the years, where she has constantly been keeping Dawn accountable and also up to date with what's happening in Ryan's life, which I do think is a beautiful development. I really like everything that they did with Ryan's mom this episode. I think that this is it allows this episode to stand above everything else that's happening in it. Because it could have been way worse. The Marissa stuff is mostly trash in this episode.
Except for the very end, I think.
Sort of. So here's my two notes about this subplot. One is that I do love that they basically have this moment that implies that Julie Cooper is very well aware that Marissa can hear every word that she's saying to Volchek. Like as she leaves, there's just this quick moment where she kind of like looks and scans the room, almost as if she's like just trying to figure out like where Marissa was hiding to hear what she said. My problem with the Marissa thing is like, I wrote like, oh, glad to find out that Marissa finally has a moral code when things absolutely couldn't get worse than they were currently at. Like there were so many other moments before Heather is in the back of a van passed out that she could have intervened beforehand. Yeah. So that kind of pissed me off. Like the second that when she saw him put the roofie in the drink, I was like, oh, slap the drink out of her hand or get that. Like, there's so many other times.
What is she waiting for?
Yeah, why was she waiting for it to be as bad as it could possibly be to intervene? The biggest thing that we have to bring up before we wrap up talking about this episode is fucking Chloe, the waitress that just is like laying it on thick, goes to Bone Zone with Ryan within like an hour or so of meeting him, and then like kind of helps Ryan realize that his mom is doing a lot better than he's willing to give her credit for at that moment. And I am assuming we will never see or hear from Chloe again. I feel like this was a series debut and a series wrap on the character of Chloe the waitress.
I was like, I completely forgot that the first thing he did when he got to Albuquerque was smash.
Boy, did he.
And I was like, I kind of love this like sexually liberated Ryan. You know what I mean? Like it took him a while to fuck.
Yeah. This is like a pretty quick rebound off of like 2 days ago.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Hi, I'm your inner dream monologue, and you're fast asleep, so I'll be quick. Great job using the Colgate Optic White Overnight Teeth Whitening Pen before bed. When used as directed, it gives you a visibly whiter smile in just 7 days. So while I fly and talk to animals, you're removing teeth stains with ease. Sweet dreams. And when you wake up, keep on living life to the brightest. Colgate Optic White. Find it at all major retailers.
Hello everyone, we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and if you think you know about superheroes and comic books, think again.
We got romance, we got action,
Romance?
we got comedy, we got everything you need, man. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know for all your superhero needs.
I don't know about this romance. What part are you talking about?
We've got all kinds of sketches, and then deep dives on top of that. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Alright, so come on down to... Wait, why did I say come on down? To Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
All in all, love the episode. I also have to call out that I'm a huge dork, that in the 1 second that we see Seth's desk, I'm just like, he's got the Ghost World graphic novel. Is where his phone is sitting. The episode ends, and Ryan comes home, and he goes to the pool house, and Seth is in there, and Seth and him are going to try to figure out a way for him to win back Summer and go to Brown. And I have no clue how this is going to happen or if this is even going to work out. I mean, winning back Summer, maybe. I don't know how he gets into Brown. I don't know if anybody goes to Brown. I don't know if Marissa's death makes nobody want to live Newport Beach. Like, I have no clue how this final season, College Years, is going to be executed or handled. And I'm kind of interested to see. Look, I am ready for a change up. That's what it comes down to. I'm stoked for season 4. And I do have to shout out a listener of the podcast who commented on one of our statuses. A listener named Brian commented and said, at least in my opinion, season 3 is worth getting through just to experience season 4. Personally, it's my favorite of the series and one of my overall favorite TV seasons.
Interesting. Would not say that, but I believe that they are correct in some way.
Yeah, that it's at least worth getting through this season to get to that season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it can't go worse than this, Joe. But I'm going to give a big cut. Look, Volchek's Party has a lot of negative things happening in it, but one of the things that's not negative is his soundtrack is pretty baller. So let's talk about the music that was in this episode. It's like 20 minutes in the episode before we hear any music. When Ryan and Chloe are hanging out at the bar, George Jones's A Picture of Me Without You is playing on the jukebox. It's the first song we hear in this entire episode besides California. Sun Kills Moon, Tiny Cities Made of Ashes is what plays when Ryan finally is talking to his mom at the counter. Mm-hmm. And then Volchek's Party, we hear 3 songs. The Vines, Any Sound, Rob Zombie's Foxy Foxy, and Wolf Mother's Woman. And then the episode ends with Ben Harper's Waiting for You. And honestly, all of the songs at Volchek's Party are favorites of mine. But if I can only pick one of them, I'm going to go with Woman from Wolf Mother, because that is like a song that I just remember being inescapable at the time that this episode came out. What say you, Joe?
It was... there was so much going on that like I wasn't even paying attention to the music because I found myself being like, oh fuck, Ryan's gonna smash that girl, oh there it is, and all those things. So unfortunately for me, it's California.
All right, well there we go.
And not saying that there wasn't good choices, but it wasn't like the music did not inform.
It didn't stand out.
It didn't stand out.
That's fair. Joe, we always want to talk about something pop culture based. I've made quite a few shout outs in the last couple episodes to my girlfriend, and I want to talk about a movie that she made me watch fairly recently that I enjoyed quite a bit. When I looked online, it seems like there was some mixed feelings about this particular film adaptation of this musical, but I watched The Last 5 Years, starring Anna Kendrick, which I was impressed is almost, I feel like almost falls into an opera category because there's almost no dialogue. It is just music and songs informing every emotion and every story beat. But I really liked it. There are some really great songs in that show.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the show and the movie?
I am familiar with the show and the movie, and I actually really like the movie too.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to have, like, apparently diehards of the show had some issues with the movie, but I had a blast with it.
Well, good. Okay.
So go check that out, everybody, if you haven't seen it. It's got there are some really great songs in it.
My pick for pop culture this time around is one that surprised me. I'm going to be quite honest. I don't know why, but I just felt the urge to start watching Marvel movies again.
Okay.
And so I started with Captain America Civil War, which is the beginning of Marvel Phase 3.
Yeah, it's kind of it's what starts where we're at in this current world, basically.
It's sort of, yeah. I mean, it's the beginning of the infinity of when we get to Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame and all that stuff. So it was so interesting to watch it and just be like, wow, you can kind of tell that this is all green screen.
Yeah. That's my biggest problem when I watch a lot of the Marvel movies anymore is you can see when it stops being a movie and basically becomes a video game cutscene. But which one surprised you then? Was it Civil War or?
No, it was. So Civil War started with Civil War, and then after that is Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange was the one that got me because I remember seeing Doctor Strange in the theater in IMAX, and just being completely overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, and
now seeing it, at home, obviously at home and with my, in my little 4K TV,
you get to see past the spectacle and see it for what the movie actually is.
Exactly.
Because that was a movie. I remember being in Disney World with my family, and they have one of those. What do they call it? I guess 4D, where the theater shakes and everything.
Oh yeah, 4D, yeah.
They have a 4D theater where they would play you not full movies, but 5 to 10 minute clips of upcoming movies.
Sure.
And that particular time we were there, it was to promote Doctor Strange coming out that summer. And being in this 4D theater and seeing worlds folding and cities folding on top of each other and all this stuff. I remember my dad, who's not a go to the movies kind of guy, walking out of that and being like, I kind of want to see that in a theater. And I don't know if I didn't see it in a theater, so I don't know if he went and saw it, but it was one of those ones where you're like, holy shit, the visual insanity of that movie was so at the forefront, and that was the advertising. I need to rewatch it because I really don't remember what happens in that movie. I remember things that happen in that movie from a visual stance, but plotting wise, I remember very little. And I thought the sequel was pretty good, the Sam Raimi sequel.
Oh, yeah. Sam Raimi sequel was really great, but it was just I remember being as far as groundedness, I think that the first Doctor Strange is the most grounded of the two that have come out so far.
Yeah.
Because it's also the origin story, and then it's I just forgot with all the seriousness of being it's Dormammu, and the everything has this fantastical name, and I'm because we're also introducing magic, right? We're introducing magic into this,
and that always the magic. I feel once you introduce magic, time travel, and alternate timelines, things always become more difficult to follow to a certain extent. And it also tends to break universes in the sense of when you introduce the idea of a multiverse, spoiler alert, I guess, for the Endgame movies, but it makes something like Iron Man and Tony Stark dying less impactful in the sense that you're but at any moment they could always just go to another universe if they feel like they need to bring Iron Man back. It's stuff like that that takes away finality. in things is when you create ways that like characters who are dead could potentially no longer be dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a positive and a negative, but yeah, it definitely makes it a lot more difficult to follow casually. You really have to be like attentive to the rules of the magic from that point on.
Yeah. And so it was nice to, like, right now I just watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is my favorite. Oh, well, no, I shouldn't say that because I haven't seen 3 yet. So Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I like
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 a lot. And that's like one that a lot of people don't like. I don't get it. I think it is so well constructed. I honestly think the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is one of the finest trilogies in the last 20 years. I think that James Gunn did a fantastic job with all 3 parts feeling like what they need it to feel like.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, speaking of having feelings towards things, Newport. Boy, what a place.
Boy.
The OC. Gotta love it. Do you? I don't know. But stay tuned next week where maybe we'll get some answers, but probably not.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.